theyeshiva.net.
Okay, Taya de Yidden, we're up to Daf Zayin Amud Aleph Masechta Megillah, 3 lines from the bottom. Umatonis Levyonim. The Mishnah mentioned, the Mishnah on Daf 7a-b mentioned that the difference between the first order and the second order is relative to reading of the Megillah and Matonis Levyonim, because that we do in the second month of Adar. So there's no other Mishnah in Masechta Megillah that talks about Matanis Levyonim. So therefore the Gemarah seizes the opportunity, mentioning Matanis Levyonim, to speak about Matanis Levyonim, which is of course mentioned in the Megillah as one of the mitzvahs that they instituted on Purim. It should be a day of Mishta and Simcha and Mishloach Manos Ish L'Re'eyu, chapter 9 of Megillah Esther, sending gifts, one person to a friend, Matanas Levyonim, and gifts to the poor. Tani Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef taught. Rabbi Yosef gave over a brayso that the pasuk says in Megillah Esther, "Umishloach manos ish l're'ehu." It's a day of sending gifts from a man to his friend. So from here, the brayso taught something fascinating. Shtei manos li'ish echad. 2 gifts, 2 manos, to one person. Because when you look at the pasuk, it says umishloach manos in the plural. It could have said mishloach maneh. Manos is in the plural. Ish lire'ehu in the singular. So it's shtei manos li'ish echad. 2 manos, not 1 mana. 2 gifts of food. Rashi says manos. What's manos? So Rashi translates this third to the last Rashi on Zayin Amud Manos, mine ma'adanim. Can I give you a gift? Can I give you a sweater for Shalach Manos? Can I give you a house for Shalach Manos? Can I give you a piece of jewelry for Shalach Manos? What about money? Huh? So Rashi says Manos is mine ma'adanim, which are basically types of foods. Foods that sweeten, that enhance a person's vitality. So mishloach manos means it has to be 2. But re'ehu, it doesn't say ish l're'av. If it would have said mishloach manos ish l're'av, it means I have to send it to friends, not a friend. Re'ehu is 1. His friend, not friends. Not l're'av, but l're'ehu. Yeah. In the same Megillah, it says that Haman came home and he told his friends, Re'av. The Megillah knows how to say friends. Here it says Re'ehu, like you have in Parshas Mishpatim, right? Ki yigach shor as shor Re'ehu. Doesn't mean my ox gored many oxen. It gored 1 ox of my friend, of my colleague, of my fellow Jew. So we learn from here, shtei manos. It has to be 2 matanos, 2 gifts of foods, but le'ish echad, to 1 person. Shtei manos, shtei manos. Shtei manos, I mean 2 gifts. Rashi says, what's manos? Manos is mine ma'adanim. As Rashi says, shtei manos l'adam echad, iksiv, mishloach manos ish l're'eyu, shtei manos l'adam echad. What about the second mitzvah? Matanis levyonim, everything is in the plural. So it's very interesting. Mishloach manos, 1 part is plural, 1 part is singular. Matanis levyonim, everything is in the plural. Matanos levyonim, it could have said matana le'evyoin. Or matanois le'evyoin, right? It doesn't say that. It says matanois le'evyoinim. So therefore, shtei matanos l'shnei b'nei adam. That's what it means, 1 to each. No. Look at Rashi. O matanos levyoinim, shtei matanos l'shnei b'nei adam, dai lekol echad ve'echad, matana achas. Each evyoin, each poor person, you can give 1 gift. The evyoinim nami tarti mashma. By mishloach manos, I'm only giving it to 1 person. So when it says manos, I have to say that 1 person has to get 2. But by evyoinim, since it says evyoinim in the plural, so now when I say matanos levyoinim, I'm not going to say 2 to each, because that would be 4. I would say 1 to each, which makes it gifts to the poor. 1 matana for each poor person. Verstehst? And you understand why? We're not going to add when it's unnecessary. Mishloach manos, I have no choice. I'm giving it to one person. So why does it say manos? Because you have to give one person 2 manos. That's what Rashi is explaining beautifully. But matanos lev yoinim, it says ev yoinim. So when it says matanos, there's no reason for me to say each one has to get 2 matanos, and therefore I'm giving 4. What's your source? Matanos lev yoinim. If you're giving 2 people, each one a gift, you gave matanos lev yoinim, because you gave 2 gifts to 2 people. Verstandig? Yeah. And of course, the word changes also from manos to matanos. By manos, Rashi says it's a type of food. Matanos lev yoinim is not a type of food, because matanos lev yoinim I can of course give money. Mishloach manos, we don't give money. So the Gemarah doesn't say clearly 2 types of food, but there are poskim. The Aruch HaShulchan speaks about is that taichus shtei manos, it has to be 2 categories, 2 types. That is a shitta in halacha that is well known, although the Gemarah doesn't say clearly. The Gemarah says shtei manos, so you can interpret the Gemarah shtei manos just means 2 portions, right? Depends how you learn. Depends how you learn. You need 2 categories, 2 types, or not 2 types. So there are poskim who say you need types. The Aruch HaShulchan speaks about this in Hilchos Purim, Siman Tofresh Tzaddik Hey. But the Gemarah just says shtei manos, which you could also say just means 2 gifts of food, but it could be the same category. Say, I want to give you 2 pieces of fish or 2 bulkalach of bread, right? Is that fine for mishloach manos? So some say it's fine. Some say it's fine because it's shtei manos. But there are those who say shtei manos means different categories of food. So I'll give you a piece of fish and I'll give you an orange. Or a hamantash, I forgot. There's no such halacha. There's no such halacha. You give to one person. You could be mahader. You could be mahader. The Rambam says in Hilchos Megillah, Kol hamarbel shloyach l'reim arezim meshubach. You can give as many friends as you want. It's a beautiful thing. It's praiseworthy, but the mitzvah you fulfilled. Matanos lev yoinim, on the other hand, I have to give 2. And the Rambam famously says in Hilchos Megillah that if you have a choice do with your money, more shalach manos or more matanos lev yoinim, he says skip the shalach manos and do more matanos lev yoinim. In other words, to give a lot of shalach manos, he says arezim meshubach, but he says it's better to increase in matanos lev yoinim than to increase in your suda and in shalach manos to your friends, which is an extension, according to the Rambam, of Suda's Purim. Okay, so we have the 2 dinim of shalach manos and matanos lev yoinim. Yeah. It's interesting that by shalach manos, it's 2. And matanos lev yoinim is dafka 1. The Ran says, Rabbeinu Nissim says, why? What would be the logic? Like, or just keep it generic. So he says the logic is shalach manos you're giving even to a very wealthy person. The Ran says. So mainly you give shtei manos, it should be more significant. Matanos lev yoinim is dafka to a poor person. So 1 matana is already significant. That's how the Ran explains it. Sagt die Gemarah weiter. Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya shadar leilu Reb Oishia atma te igla tilsa. A man named Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya, let me just tell you who he was. Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya should not be confused with Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. One is a grandfather and one is a grandson. Don't make that confusion. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi is the famous Rabbi, Rabbeinu HaKadosh Rabbi, who is considered the teacher of all the Jewish people. We call him because he's the editor of the Mishnah. And he was the Nasi, the leader of the Jewish people in his day. And he was born approximately 135 after the Common Era. The Gemarah says the day Rabbi Akiva died, Rabbi was born. Mishameis Rabbi Akiva noilad Rabbi. Rabbi Akiva was killed by the Romans. And that day, or at least that era, Rabbi was born, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. He was the editor of the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi had a son whose name was Rabbi Gamliel. And Rabbi Gamliel had a son whose name was Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya. They call Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya. So Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya is an Amoira. He's the first generation of Amoirayim in Eretz Yisrael. His father is Rabbi Gamliel. His grandfather is the famous Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. And he's called Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya. So he's already a 3rd generation for Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. And he lives in the 3rd century after the Common Era, the century after his grandfather. And he's known Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya. And he was obviously one of the great scholars and chachamim of his time, and he lived in Eretz Yisrael, in Tzipori, I believe in Tzipori, and it says it was Purim. Shadar leil Reb Oishia atma de igla tilsa. He sends to Reb Oishia for Purim atma. Atma is a thigh, right? Reb Aaron, a thigh, yeah. And what's the next word? A thigh. Yeah. Okay. Atma is a thigh. The igla tilsa, of a calf that was born third to its mother, the third child in the family. Rashi says, Igla Tilsa Shlishi Lebeten. Why Shlishi Lebeten? Apparently, that calf was considered the most choicest and delicious calf. That's how Rashi says, Shlishi Lebeten, the one that emerges third from the womb of its mother. It's interesting that they knew this, that the third calf has a unique taste to it, a flavor to it. But I should say that Rashi in Eruvin brings another interpretation, that Igla Tilsa is a calf that reached a third of its age, a third of its lifespan, of its average lifespan. That's what Igla Tilsa means. And apparently its flesh is then the most delicious. There's also another interpretation that's brought in Tosfos and Gittin, that Tilsa doesn't mean a third. Tilsa just means a very significant and prominent and I guess robust and delicious calf. The word shalish in Lashon Kodesh, shalishim al kula. It says by Parshas, shalish is like a leader, a minister, somebody in prominence, like a commander of an army. That's a shalish. This Igla Tilsa means like a chasheva calf. It wasn't just an impoverished thigh. It was a significant thigh. According to all the interpretations, whether it's the third of birth from the mother's womb, or it means it reached a third of its lifespan, or it means that it was significant, it means he gave a significant thigh to Rabbi Shia. Who was Rabbi Shia? Rabbi Shia was a contemporary of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. He is the editor of the Braises, which he followed in the footsteps of his Rebbe, Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Shia are the editors of the Braisa. So he gets this shalach manas. What else does he get? Garba de chamra. He gets a flask of wine. Did I translate that right? Flask? A bottle of wine. Shalach le Rabbi Shia sends him a message. Ki yamta banu rabbeinu mishloyach manas ish l'reyehu. He sends him a message. Rabbeinu, our Rebbe, you have fulfilled with us the mitzvah of mishloyach manas ish l'reyehu. Rashi says, the hatrei manas ikke, because there's two manas. What were the two manas? A thigh and a bottle of wine. So according to Rashi, it seems like, what was the chiddush? The chiddush is that you could be yotzei mishloyach manas, even if it's not two foods, even if it's a food and a beverage. There are those who disagree. There is a shita and halacha that you're not yotzei shalach manas with a liquid. You need two manas. But al pi pshat, the way Rashi learns it and the way many poskim deduce from this, the Taz and the Pri Chadash and Hilchas Purim, that the Gemarah is teaching us, Kiyamta banu mishloach manas ish l'reyehu. You fulfilled the mitzvah of mishloach manas. You're good. Why? Because you sent two manas. You sent a thigh of a calf and you sent a bottle of wine. There are other Mefarshim who explain it a little different. What he meant, Kiyamta banu mishloach manas ish l'reyehu, is very interesting. Rabbi Shia considered himself much, much lower in caliber relative to Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya. So you would think, I'm not really a friend, you're not a friend. He's like a much greater. So he says, it's fine, Rabbeinu, you're Mekayim, even with a person like me. Even with a person like me, I could still be, on Purim, we're all friends. It's fine. Reyehu doesn't necessarily mean that we have to be equals. It's fine, Rabbi. I know you're in a different place. You don't have to go search for another person. You're Mekayim, Shalach Manas, Ish Reyehu. You mean it has to be a Mana Chashuva, you're saying. A significant Mana. The Baishia. Interesting. Says the Gemarah, another story. Rabbi Shadalei Mori Bar Mar Biyad Abaye. Rabbi sends shalach manas to a man named Mori, the son of Mar. Interesting name. Through Abaye, he sends him two things. Maloi Taska the Kashba. A sack filled with dates. A basket filled with dates. Okay. Taska is a basket. Kashba are dates. So he has a basket filled with dates, and he also sends Meli Kasa Kim Chedav Shuna, a cup filled with flour of scorched grain. Did I get it right? Okay, roasted grain. They used to take grain, and they would roast it, and they was called kloyos. Kloyos is you take, let's say, wheat. They would take wheat stalks or wheat grain, and they would roast it in an oven when it was still soft and moist. And afterwards, the flour was much sweeter it was actually considered a delicacy in days of yore. They were distributed by weddings, kloyos. It was considered a very delicious food. It was like a snack, like popcorn today. Yeah, like it's yeah. So basically, he sent this flour, which is very sweet. This flour of scorched grain he sent to Mari Barmar together with a basket of dates. Abaye was the shliach. Abaye was the one who took the shalach manas. So he tells his teacher, Rabbi was his teacher. Rabbi was also his uncle, and Rabbi was the one who raised him because Abaye was an orphan. So he sent Abaye, who was like a stepson and a nephew, to give shalach manas to Mari Barmar. Abaye tells him, Hashta Amar Mari. You know what Mari is going to say when he sees the shalach manas? He's going to say this. Even when a peasant becomes a king, he still doesn't know how to get rid of the basket from his neck. Meaning, chakla, did I translate it right? Chakla is a farmer. Chakla, when a farmer becomes a king, the basket doesn't come down from his neck. A peasant, yeah. The point is that it's a very sharp comment. Meaning, when you grow up in a certain way, you could become a king. It doesn't help. You remain stuck in you're still who you are. So he's basically saying, Abaye, you used to be a very humble life, but then Abaye became the Rosh Hashiva of Pumbedisa, became one of the most prominent Jews of his generation. What are you sending him? You're sending him a basket of dates, and you're sending him this flour, the flour of scorched grain. What's the issue? So Rashi says, Amalei Abaye hashta Mari achshav yem Mari okay an ichakla malka hasal shoyer rogil lo heilig by denu ben kfar machel belhemtoy lo yorid atamei rosha. The peasant would always have a basket that he would give to his animal, and that's what he walked around with. Even as a king, he still keeps it on top of him. You're a king. Let other people do it. You don't change. Kach ata, you're the same way. Nasis melech, you became a king. V'roish b'pumpedissa, you became the leader of the yeshiva in Pumbedisa, which is Bavel, a city in Iraq. Ve'ein chashelayach le'aladvarim ha'matzuyan l'koil. You're still sending him things that are common for everybody. In other words, even for the poor people. This is what Abaye tells Rabbi about his shalach manas. Yeah, in other words, you're still, in a way it was, I guess, a compliment also, perhaps. You're still the same humble man. I mean, you could look at it both ways. You could look at it as a compliment. You still see yourself in a very simple way. And sometimes it could become the opposite. A person sometimes remains stuck in something. It works both ways. Hadar shadar le'iyu. So Mari Barmar sends back shalach manas. What does he send? Malah taska de zangvila, a basket filled with ginger, umalei kasa de pilpalta aricha, and a cup filled with long peppers, ginger and peppers. Amar Abaye. Abaye is talking to both of them. So Abaye tells him, you know what my master Rabbi is going to say? I send him sweet things and he sends me sharp things. So Abaye really had a comment on both of the shalach manases. On Abaye shalach manases comment was, you became a king, but you're still sending shalach manas like a poor person. And to Mari, his comment was, Rabbi is going to say, everybody, he knew what the other one is going to say. Mari is going to say, you're still sending like a peasant. Shalach manas, and Abaye is going to say, I send him sweet stuff, and he sends me back sharp stuff. This Gemarah is very mysterious. Was this a compliment? Rabbi was his teacher. Abaye was a student and a child of Rabbi. Is this a compliment? Is this criticism? You could learn it in very different ways, right? Is he extolling what Abaye did, that he's still behaving like a very simple person? He didn't become what we would call a feinschmecker. The 7a-b actually writes that Abaye was actually complimenting Mari, and he was saying that Abaye is going to be very, very impressed that your shalach manas was dafka things that he did not send. He says the point of shalach manas is to give somebody food that they don't have. He sent you sweets. You're not going to send him sweets because he has sweets. You're going to send him something sharp. So it's actually a din in shalach manas. In the first case, you can also say that he was actually extolling and say, Mari is going to appreciate the fact that it didn't get to your head. You still remain a very humble man, and you feel like you just give a regular shalach manas, even though you're a melech. You're still carrying that basket on top of your head. Amar Abaye, the ginger and the pepper was healthy stuff. Yeah. They didn't send potato chips. Huh? Yeah. Today, it's a shalach manas where it doesn't have like 100 chocolates and candies. God forbid, it's not shalach manas. But he sends ginger, pepper, dates, flour. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. Abaye said, Abaye now continues the story. He had a comment to Rab on his shalach manas. He had a comment to Mari on his shalach manas. I also saw Mari means bitter. Mar means bitter. Mari, the son of Mar, yeah, you understand why he sent ginger and pepper. It's his name. What is he supposed to do? Mari bar Mar. I saw one of the Mefarshim says this. That was his name. You got to send what your name is. Mari bar Mar. Huh? Nishva bis. Thematic shalach manas. Shtickle of himself. Very good. He put himself into the shalach manas. Here, it's not. I'm not sending you food. I'm sending you a piece of me. That's what shalach manas is. Hey, this is what I got to deal with. Yeah, it says in the pasuk Parshas they came to Marah. They couldn't drink the water. Why? Ki marim heim. They were bitter. So the Baal Shem Tov says it doesn't mean the water is bitter. It means they were bitter. When you're bitter, everything tastes bitter. When you're sweet, things taste sweet. Ki marim heim. They were bitter. Vayimteku amayim. The water became sweet because they became sweet. Very powerful idea. The Baal Shem Tov was basically saying the world is not always an objective place. It's a very subjective place. If you're in a good place, you'll find a lot of good people. And if you're in a miserable place, you will find a lot of miserable people. You'll see, because that's what you're attracted to. That's what when I'm, misery likes company. When I'm miserable, I'll find the misery in everybody. And I'll be right, too. I'll be able to prove it scientifically. But when you're in a good place, suddenly you see the goodness in people. It's a very powerful idea. So Mari, Seveta Metzias, yeah, Seveta Metzias, exactly. It's all relative. Yeah. You look at your child, yeah. So then the person looks at their spouse. What do you see? I see reality. No. You see your reality. It's very true. You see your reality.
I know hundreds of subjective.
Yeah. Senator Moynihan said, what? People are entitled to their own opinions. People are not entitled to their own facts. But Jews disagree with that. If you've been around. So it's a very powerful idea that who we are is manifested in constantly. That becomes my glasses. That's what I see. That's what I pick up. Because both are true. There's chesroinus and there's milus. What do you think? And you also there's milus and chesroinus, believe it or not. The question is what you see, what you accentuate instinctively. Amar Abaye said, Kinofki mi beimar, the story is not finished. I want to tell you something. When I left the house of my master with the shalach manas, I was going from Rabbi to Mari. Have a savannah. I was very satiated. I was full. Ki metoy lahasam, when I come there to the house of Mari with the shalach manas, remember he's carrying the dates and the flour of the scorched grain. Krivuli shitin tsoi, they bring me 60 pots, 60 kalim, 60 vessels, the shitin minigdata, with 60 types of cooked dishes. Did I translate it correctly? Yeah. 60 kalim, 60 dishes, each one has a different type of dish. Va'achli behu shitin plugi. And I ate 60 pieces, meaning I took from every pot something from it, and I ate 60 parts. Ubishula basraisa, the last dish, the 60th, have a karulate sli kader. They had a special name for it. They called it a pot roast. What's a pot roast? You cook meat in its own liquid. You don't put in water or oil and saute it in other beverages, other liquids. You cook it in its own juices because meat emits its own juices. So it, Jarkoi. Okay, thank you for the clarification. You don't mix in any other liquid. That's called tzli kader. Tzli means roasted. Usually when you want to barbecue something, you take a spit and you put it in the fire. But this is kader. Kader comes from the word kadera. How do you roast something in a pot? Just like when you roast something with a spit on the barbecue. You don't mix in any other liquids. You just keep it on the fire, what we call a barbecue, grill ala esh. So tzli kader means you do it the same way in a pot. Usually when you cook in a pot, you put in water, etc. It's cooking the water. Here, you let it cook in its own liquids that ooze out of the basar. In fact, this becomes a question about the carbon pesach. The Torah says you have to roast the carbon pesach. Are you allowed to do tzli keder? Are you allowed to roast my carbon pesach in a pot without water? You're not allowed to cook it. That's true. Bashal, mavushal, b'mayim, you're not allowed to. But what about roasting it in a keder? So we learn now that you're not allowed to. Because even tzli keder, you're not allowed to have any pot whatsoever. So his point is, the last dish they called tzli keder was a pot roast. Now this was the last. So there were 59 up to the barbecue. I ate it. Ubaye lemechasa abasra. When I finished, I wanted to eat the pot itself. I finished the meat, and I wanted to eat. I wanted to chew. Mechas is chew. Tsa'a, the keli, the kaira, the plate, not the plate, the vessel in which it was offered, I wanted to eat that too. So listen to understand. Abaye says, I left with shalach manas. I was satiated. I was full. In other words, I wasn't hungry. I came there. I ate 6 parts of 60 dishes. The last one was a pot roast, and when I finished that, I wanted to eat the plate. Amar Abaye says about himself, Hainu damri yinshi. I understood what people say, Kafin anya v'lo yada. The poor man is hungry, but he's not aware of it. In other words, part of being poor is not just that you're hungry. Sometimes you're not aware of how hungry you are. And suddenly, when you're offered the alternative, when you offer the opportunity, you realize how hungry you are. In other words, options create new appetites that never existed. Sometimes you think options are wonderful because it gives you more options. Options, when they weren't there, it's not only they weren't there, so I cry. When they're not there, I don't know that there's something to cry for. You thought you were full. You thought you were full because you didn't know about it. It's not like, I knew and I don't have it and I'm upset. You have it, I don't have it. No. What happens when you see it is you learn that you didn't have something. So in other words, sometimes you become more poor as a result. You understand? Because you're missing much more. That's what the advertisement companies are all about. Making you open the magazine or the website and you feel how much you don't have. If you don't have an 11 Pro, bist a shmata, a loser. Your marriage is going to just get destroyed. You have no menuchas on nefesh. You're going to be deprived of everything beautiful in this world. You're going to go back to the cave age. You're going to live with the dinosaurs. Oy, nebach, kibakuk. That's why you're happy. That's why you're happy. Of course, that's what the mall does. Yeah. It's called Eitz Hadas. It's the tree in the middle of the garden. Eat everything, but not that. The moment God said, not that, only that. Only that. And if not, my life is miserable. I have 2,000 trees to eat. Who cares? But Eitz Hadas, you can't eat, so you become miserable. So it used to be you came into a store they called mom and pop shop, right? There was one type of pants for the whole world, right? You bought it and you were happy. Today you come in, and you go home and you're miserable because there were 60 types that you couldn't, people go to a restaurant, they look at the menu, you know that feeling? Yeah? And there's like 100 types of dishes. And whatever you choose, you're like, you're deprived. Huh? Yeah. I used to come to my grandmother, she would bake a potato, and that was it. Kartoffel, the potato, that was food, and everybody was happy with a piece of potato. I'll call upon them. One of everything on the menu, yeah. Because you feel like you're losing out. So that's the idea. Kafan anya v'lo yada. It's not pshat the poor person is hungry. He doesn't know that he's hungry. You don't know. You live in a place that you don't know you're hungry on many different levels. It's also true spiritually. We'll see in a moment. Inami, Rava says, I learned something else that people say. And this line has become immortalized not only in Jewish thought, but in Jewish life. Ravche lebesime shchiach. There's always place in the stomach for something that's delicious. Ravche means there's space. Lebesime for something that's geschmack. Shchiach. There's always place. You know when a person says, you want another piece of chicken? No, I'm full. I can't eat. I'm mamish, I can't breathe. Suddenly they bring out, the desserts, and plutzlung, he finished off 3 plates. What happened? For exists, common. There's always place. What do they say? If there's place in the heart, there's place in the house. Yeah? So he said if the food is good enough, there's going to be place in the stomach. Don't worry. That's what Abaye said I learned. He learned 2 things. First of all, he learned when you're poor, you don't know that you're hungry. Not that you're hungry. You don't know that you're hungry. The second thing I learned is there's always space for more. There's always room, huh? There's always room for jello. That's his definition of sweet. There's always room for jello, yeah. There's always room for chocolate. Yeah. Yeah, the Marsha writes, what's Pshat? I wanted to eat the plate. He wants to eat plates. What, he's going to eat plates? So he says it was Purim. The Marsha says it's a big chiddush that he thinks it was Purim, so they made the plate out of food. Marsha says it's interesting. He sees that people know how to, they take sugar and they make a plate out of sugar, he said. So he wanted to eat the plate itself. I guess here they had to make the plate out of steak or something. Yeah, they make plates out of dough. So his point is he wanted to even eat the plate. That's how hungry he felt. So this is all happening in this Shalach Manas when he brings the flour and the dates and he gets back the pepper and the ginger. At this visit with Mari Barman, he didn't just go deliver Shalach Manas. He sat there eating 60 dishes. I guess it was a long Shalach Manas, and then he came back with ginger and pepper. I looked this morning. You're disturbed.
Very
I could read on your face before you said anything that you're disturbed. You want to know, this sounds more like freserai, huh? What does this mean? What does this mean?
So he could have brought it back.
Excellent. So here's a classic piece of Gemarah where if you understand it on a simple level, it mamish doesn't make sense. I mean, we all know the feeling. You're full, and then you go to a house, and you see a smorgasbord, and suddenly, Baruch Hashem, there's place for a lot of food. We all know it. Yours truly included. The sages put it in 3 words. By the way, how do they translate those 3 words? I just want to make sure I got it. Huh? Room can always be found in one's stomach for sweet things. Okay. Very nice. We all know the feeling. We also know the feeling that when you know more, your appetite is triggered, right? When you see diversity, we all know as kids, yeah? Everybody got for an afikoiman, yeah? If you were Rothschild's kid, you got a calculator. If you were Rothschild's kid. If you were another kid, you got maybe a Parker pen, and the rest got potato chips. Today, as somebody wrote to me, he has to give his son a Lamborghini for the afikoiman. And some want a private jet, but even the poorest families at least have a laptop or a tablet. Meaning, diversity doesn't always create more freedom. It sometimes creates more misery. Options, yeah? Everybody knows it with their children. You give 100 options, and they're miserable. There's one option, and everybody is happy. So you have to know, because it looks like the more satiated, Rabbi sometimes says the exact opposite. The lack of knowledge sometimes keeps you full. The knowledge that I'm poor and there's so much more food and now I'm starving. And when I come home, I'm miserable, of course, because I don't have this. It's a very powerful lesson in education. The other lesson is there's always place for delicious food. But the question is, we all understand that. But 60 dishes? I mean, first of all, who makes 60 dishes on Purim? 60? Who were they serving? They were serving the Babylonian army. Huh? So the truth is, if you went last night to the Siyum, Rabbi Korn and Laser Shiner made a Siyum on your Yerushalmi, so maybe, I don't know, anybody was there, So it was a shtickle matzav over there. And then he eats every one, and the last one is tzli keder, and he wants to eat the plate. There's people who know what eating is. Who wants to eat plates? Even if the plate is made out of dough, like the Marsha says. So the Chaim Sofer, I saw he has a sefer called Torah's Moshe on Chumash, and in Parshas Tetzaveh he has a shtickle on Zayin Adar. So he says over there that he wants to explain this Gemarah, and he's convinced that the Gemarah is written as a parable. It's all a metaphor. It's not a literal story that happened. Abaye is trying to convey a metaphor, and he brings a few proofs. He says, first of all, Abaye was considered one of the great people of the generation. And let's face it, this story is unbecoming even for a person who just keeps their health on a basic level, even if you're not a very holy person. And then the way Abaye speaks, I wanted to eat the plate. Really? Ad kedei kach. I understand somebody who didn't eat for 2 days, they want to eat the plate. I understand. Especially if it's made out of food. But you just ate 60 after you felt you were full. And if you knew you were full, couldn't you have self-control? I mean, what is this all about? Some Sefer says that it's all understood from one diuk. The last dish they used to call tzli keder. What is it they used to call it? Just say the last dish was tzli keder. Yeah, it's like saying the last dish they used to call cholent. The last dish they used to call ice cream. The last dish they used to call steak. What would they call what? Some people called it, some people didn't call it.
Yeah, why didn't you give us the whole 60 dishes?
And tell us all the 60 dishes. I don't understand. You want us to know because you're trying to make us hungry by knowledge. So tell us everything. Have it correlate shlei keder. And then he wants to eat the pot. Like, Chassidus says, what is this all about?
First of all, it wasn't even prepared for him. He said
It wasn't prepared for him. No, but they offered it. They said, there's krivuli, yeah. He came, they give him, yeah. And then this is the shalach. This is what they have. And what do they send to Abaye? Such tickle ginger. Come on. 60 dishes. You can't do better with your shalach manas. Send over something more. Send over a stickled sleeve for Abaye. No, he sends even things that are not mamish edible. Ginger and pepper, I mean, they're good spices, but it's not independent foods. So the Chaim Sofer says, interestingly, that it's all a parable, it's all a metaphor. And he says for Abaye, food meant Torah. There was no other, as he puts it there was no other significant food for him. Food meant Torah. It says, L'chu lachmu b'lachmi, Torah is called bread. And just like it's explained in Svarim, that just like food we digest and it becomes internalized, it becomes you. That's the difference of Torah and mitzvahs. A mitzvah you do. Torah you're supposed to digest to the point that it becomes who you are. The uniqueness of food is it's not like clothes. I put on clothes, but the jacket doesn't become me. The jacket protects me. The coat protects me. It doesn't become me. The concept of food is it doesn't remain food. It gets broken down and it goes into my bloodstream literally. You are who you eat is not a cliche. You are who you eat is a very real thing. We are our food. And that's the difference of Torah and mitzvahs. Mitzvahs, I do. I perform. It's like a levush. You dress up in it, whether it's tefillin or tzitzis or tzedakah, etc. Torah is much more than a levush. Torah is called meichel. It's bread. Dam basa kipsare, because real Torah is internalized. It changes you as a person. Who you are as a person. How you think, how you live, how you feel. It's not just you have information in you. That's not real Torah. The Torah is it becomes part of you. So for Abaye, that was food. Now Abaye had a great teacher, Rabbi. Rabbi was one of the greatest of his generation. He says, when I left Rabbi's house on Purim, I was full. In other words, the wisdom of Torah that I had from Rabbi, it was so satiating, I was full, I was good. I felt completely spiritually satiated. That's what happens. I come to the house of Mari Bar Mar, and he takes out 60 dishes. He says, those are the 60 mesechtas, 60 tractates of Shas. And he starts feeding me in every mesechta. And he says, basically what happens, Mari teaches me in every mesechta something that I never knew before. I ate a new dish I never had before. Now, he doesn't say he ate all the 60 plates. In every one of the 60, he ate one dish. In other words, we went through all the mesechtas of Shas, 60 mesechtas, and in each mesechta, he said, I ate. I was full. I thought I was full, but I ate. I learned new information, new wisdom, new depth. He says, till he came to the last. Some Sefer said the last one was Masechta Pesachim. The last Masechta was Masechta Pesachim. And he says, in Masechta Pesachim, they came to the sugya of tzli keder. You remember I mentioned before that by Pesach, there's a whole question if you're allowed to eat a pot roast. So Pesachim, Daf Mem Beis, and other places in the Masechta, there's a whole sugya about tzli keder. And he says he started to feed me. That was the last. That's what he says. They didn't give me tzli keder. He didn't eat steak. Havikaruli tzli keder. It was a dish that they called tzli keder. It was the sugya of tzli keder. Some Sefer goes so far to suggest what the Chiddush Abaye, he doesn't know this, but he says, look in Tosfos over there, and you'll understand the great Chiddushim that Abaye learned from Mori on that day in Masechta Pesachim. About Alav Shabaklolos. I got in Sasugi over there with Sli Keder. He says, now what happens is, I eat it up, and suddenly I feel so hungry. I feel so hungry, and I want to eat the whole pot. This one I want to eat. I don't want him to stop with Pesachim. I want him already to give me all the Chidushim on Masechta Pesachim. Why? Because Pesach is coming. Purim is 30 days before Pesach. 30 days before Yom Tov. You have to learn. So with the last one, I want the whole pot. I want Masechta Pesachim. Mari says, no, it's Fart Purim. Tomorrow we'll start Masechta Pesachim. But now it's Purim. So Purim, you have to learn Hilchas Purim. So I gave you a taste of Pesachim, but we're not going to the pot. Purim is not yet the Zman of Pesach. Shloshim Yom Kodem Achag. Yeah. And the truth is, in Halacha it's Negeya, because it's brought in our Chaim Tov Chav Tes that you have to Shloshim Yom Kodem Achag. You have to learn the halachas of the Chag, and a student could demand from his teacher, let's learn that Masechta. The rest of the year, the student has to follow the blueprint of the teacher. But 30 days before Yom Tov, the expression in halacha is all year the teacher is borrowed to the student is borrowed to the teacher. And 30 days before Yom Tov, the teacher is borrowed to the student. Whatever, if he wants to learn that, he comes first. So Abaye on Purim says, I want to learn Pesachim. He says, no, tomorrow you could demand it for me. Today you can't demand it for me. Today I gave you a shtickle. L'kovet Purim, it was my shalach manas to you, but that's it. When Abaye leaves the house, he says, look what you learn from here. Two things in life. First thing you learn is the greatest ignorance is the ignorance of ignorance. The greatest ignorance is the ignorance of ignorance. It's not that the poor person is hungry. That's already part of the solution, not part of the problem. The poor person doesn't know he's hungry. He says, that's often what happens. I was satiated because I was so poor. I didn't know I was hungry. I didn't know the infinity of truth. And when you don't know the infinity, you're satisfied with finiteness. The moment you look at it, you're like, wow, suddenly you become hungry. That's what he learned. And he said he learned that in Torah. You could know, you're satiated. Really? You're starving. Why didn't I feel I was starving? Because I didn't know what I don't know, because I was so poor. And Mori exposed me to what I don't know. When he exposed me to what I don't know, suddenly I was starving. That's the first thing I learned. The second thing I learned is Rav Chila B'Sumar Shchiach. When something is delicious, there's always place for more. So Sefer says he's addressing two issues of knowledge. One is called Koitzer Hamasik, and one is called Oimek Hamusik. In Sifrei Chkira, Chassidus, there's a Musar, there's a lot of Machshav, there's a lot about this. Koitzer Hamasik is sometimes I learn something I don't understand it because of my limits. I'm in a limited place. I push it. I don't have the tools to grasp it, or I'm not in the space. That's number one. He says, number two, it could be you're in the most expansive place, but Oimek HaMusig, the material is infinite. Which one is it? He says, both are true. Sometimes I'm not ready, and therefore I can't grasp it. But sometimes you can grasp everything, but that which you want to grasp is not graspable. He says, those are the two things Abaye says about Torah. The first thing is people don't know how much they don't know. They're so poor, they don't know how much they don't know. Suddenly I got exposed. But then there's a second thing, and that is you think you're filled. No. When you'll realize how infinite it is, there'll always be space for more and more. Why? Because it's so deep that there's always growth. Rav Chila B'Sumar Shchiach, you can always fill yourself up more and more. This is what Abaye learned from his experience on Purim. It's like some Seifers word. Shane? About life, huh? Without that, it's just very strange. Maisa about a freser, and it has to go into the Gemarah. 60 pots. Try it. You tried it. Toyameha. It's like the Toyameha by the hotels. You're right.
Nothing wrong with freser.
And he wants to chew the plate. I mean, it's a little weird, no? Maybe I'm telling you what the Chassam Sofer says. It could be other derachim. It's one derech. There's a beautiful way how he interprets it. That Tzli Keder, Masechta Pesachim. The last one, however, currently Tzli was Masechta Pesachim. That's how it correlates likedos Masechta Pesachim.
And you learned this from whom?
Abaye learned this all from Mari, the son of Mar.
The only thing that doesn't fit is the name Murray.
No, I think it fits the name Mari. Because there's two types of bitterness. There's bitterness that comes from like depression and anger. But there's bitterness, mirirus, that comes from knowing how broad the horizons are. So you feel a frustration. Yeah, it says by the man in Parshas Akev, Vayancha, Vayariveka, Vayachilcha es Hamon. Yeah, he made you hungry. He fed you the man. So Mefarshim say, what do you mean? So they weren't hungry. He fed you the man. So they weren't hungry. So there's different interpretations. I mean, they were hungry before the man. But one of the interpretations is that the man made them more hungry. Because certain foods that you eat, the man was bread from heaven. Bread from heaven, the more you eat, the more you want. Because when you touch finiteness, right? When you touch finiteness, so you can get it. But when you touch infinity, the more you have, all you get is more frustrated. Because the more you have infinity, what do you learn? You learn more of infinity. So you learn more what you don't have, not what you have. So that's Mar, that's Merirus, that's what I think. It's the Vayancha that comes from that knowledge. I once saw a letter that about somebody about Tshuva at the age of 60. It's not easy to become Baal Tshuva at the age of 60. You have to learn Aleph Beis and Hebrew pronunciation. And he started to learn and he got so frustrated, to try to start learning Gemarah when you're 60. It's not easy. Even to start learning as an adult, some of you know from experience how hard it is, because things that get ingrained as a child, like languages, you could learn fast. When you get older, it's so much more difficult. It's not simple. People who don't understand this don't realize this. So I once saw a letter about Tshuva. He was 60 and he was learning Gemarah or other things. He was so frustrated because he would sit in yeshiva, wherever it was, and there were guys there who grew up with Torah, and they knew it. And him, every word, you have to sit and you have to read it like 600 times, and then you still don't understand it. So he wrote a letter to the Lubavitcher Rebbe of how frustrated he is. The Rebbe wrote him back, trust me, that people who learned their whole life are much more frustrated with how much they don't know. If they learned their whole life, they're much more frustrated. That's what he said, which was fascinating. And he said the real approach is, you don't have to master it all. Lo yalecha malacha ligmar, v'lo yata ben chayrin libatal mimena. You're not responsible to finish it all, but don't think you shouldn't start. Do, and whatever you master is amazing. But remember that those who mastered everything are much more frustrated because they know how much they don't know. He says, you still think that if you would have grown up in yeshiva, you would have known. But those who did, and they really know. So there's three levels. There's ignorance that precedes knowledge. There's knowledge that follows ignorance. And Abaye is telling us, but there's ignorance that follows knowledge. And that's the deepest, that's enlightened ignorance. Enlightened ignorance is ignorance that follows knowledge. Yeah. Tachlis hayidiyah shaloi neidach. The ultimate knowledge is that I don't know. But that's knowledge. That's knowledge. So the Gemarah says, Abaye barovin v'Rabbi Chanina barovin machlef v'suda sayu lahadadi. We'll just finish this piece. Abaye, the son of Ovin, and Reb Chanina, the son of Ovin, would exchange their meals with each other. Now, this is very ambiguous. They would exchange their meals with each other. Rashi teaches us something very interesting. Rashi says, one would eat with his friend for one Purim, and the next year Purim, they would swap. So like this Purim, I come to your house for the meal. Abaye comes to Reb Chanina's house, and the next year Reb Chanina comes to Abaye's house. That's pshat. They exchange meals with each other. You eat with me one year, and I eat with you. That's how Rashi learns. The question is, what's the point of the story then? The point is that Abaye had guests. Like, what's the point? What is the Gemarah trying to do? It's telling us a halacha. It's just telling us a story that people used to go to each other's house. What's pshat? L'cha'oida, they're saying something about shalach manas. But if it's about Shalach Manas, the Beis Yosef asks a gewaldige question in Hilchos Purim. I understand how Abaye fulfilled Shalach Manas if he invited Reb Chanina, because you come to my house and I give you food, Shalach Manas. But how did Reb Chanina fulfill Shalach Manas if he was at Abaye's house? He was taking food, he wasn't giving food. So if the Gemarah is just telling us a story, it would be strange. If the Gemarah is telling us a halacha and shalach manas, it doesn't work. It only works for one. It doesn't work for the other. That's what the Beis Yosef asks. So the Darchei Moshe, the Ramah, writes in Hilchos Purim, he says something very nice. He says the pshat is, it's true. By eating Purim by you, I was not yotze shalach manas. You were yotze because you fed me. But I was not yotze. I just took. I didn't give. The Gemarah is telling us a chiddush that you would think that shalach manas means I have to send you food. But if I invite you to my house and you eat, it's not shalach manas. That's the chiddush of the story. That's what the chiddush is. A beautiful word that Achim is saying. Don't think mishloach manas means I have to send food to your house. No, I can invite you to my house, give you 2 pieces of food, and I was yotze mishloach manas. You're right, you weren't yotze. You have to give me, or you have to give somebody else. That's how the Darchei Moshe understands the story according to Rashi. Because if not, it's very strange how we're so supposed to understand the story. Huh? Yeah. The Bach says another chiddush. Moededike chiddush. It's not brought lahalacha. He was a big posek, but he paskins that way. And he holds that the Gemarah is telling us a much bigger chiddush according to Rashi, that both were Makayim Shalach Manas. Why? Because the objective of Shalach Manas is not that I just send you food. The objective of Shalach Manas is Jewish love and unity. That Jews connect with each other. That's what the point is. I send you food, you send me food. So he says, when people are sitting together at a meal and fabranging, that is shalach manas. You didn't give me any food. He says, that's the chiddush of this Gemarah. They believed, that's how you yotze shalach manas. A gewaldige chiddush of the Bach. It's not brought lahalacha. It's not brought lahalacha that you could be yotze that way, but that's his perspective, that both are yotze, because the point is not, according to him, I send you, you send me. The point is the result. The result is that we feel close to each other. People feel very close when they sit together and they feast together with joy and love and affection at Shalach Manas. I thought it's a beautiful touch. Huh? Yeah, but Rashi says it was the next year. So like Rashi, that's the question, right? That's the question. There's another pshat. Maran Shapiro says that the pshat in Rashi is it wasn't shalach manas. Of course, it's not about shalach manas. It's just saying something else. That the way to do the meal of Purim is not alone, to do it with friends. That's the point. In other words, it's not about shalach manas, it's about Sudas Purim. It's better to eat Sudas Purim with friends because it's more simcha. That's the point. So 1 year he came to him, and 1 year he came to him, a whole different perspective. It's not about shalach manas, it's about Sudas Purim. However, the Rambam has a whole different interpretation in this Gemarah. And the Rambam says, not that they invited each other to their meals. They used to swap their meals for shalach manas, meaning they were both poor people. And they didn't have enough food to eat and to give shalach manas. So what they do, I prepared my meal and I gave it to you. You prepared your meal and you gave it to me. So you killed 2 birds with 1 stone. First of all, I have a meal because you gave it to me. Second of all, I did shalach manas because I gave you my meal and you gave me your meal. That's the pshat, not year after year. That year, in other words, shalach manas doesn't just mean I give an extra gift. If you have nothing, I have a little piece of bread and a little piece of herring for Purim, what do? I send it to you, and then you send me back your little piece of bread and your little piece of herring, and we did shalach manas and we did Sudas Purim. A whole different taich. Huh? No, they didn't eat together. Machlefi Sudasayula Adad means they swapped meals. I send you my meal, you send me your meal. Rashi says they ate with each other. The other pshat is, this is the Rambam strat, how he teaches in Hilchos Megillah, that they swapped meals with each other, because they didn't have enough. If I have a meal and I give you shalach manas, great, like we do today. But they didn't have enough for that, so they did it with the Suda. And the Gemarah says, Amar Rava says, and this Gemarah is one of the most famous Gemarahs on Purim, but this is the source of it all, Daf Zayin Amud Beis. This Gemarah is like the Gemarah on Purim, Amar Rava, Mechayev inish lebesumah bepuri adala yada ben Arar Haman lebarach Mardechai. Person is obligated to become intoxicated on Purim until the point that he doesn't know the difference between cursed as Haman and blessed as Mordechai. Rashi says, Lavsume is lehishtaker beyayin, to become intoxicated on wine. That's what Rava says. That's the chiyuv of Purim, to become a gewaldige chiddush. This doesn't say in the Megillah. In the Megillah it says mishta, feast, and simcha, joy. So the Rava is saying, what does the Megillah mean? That the Chazal obligated a person to become intoxicated, that they don't know the difference between Arar Haman and Baruch Mordechai. Ad kedei kach. The Gemarah tells a story Here goes another story. Rabbi v'Reb Zera avdi sudas Purim b'hadei adadi. Rabbi and Reb Zera conducted a meal of Purim together. We just learned you do meals together. Rabbi and Reb Zera celebrated Purim together. Ipsum. They both became intoxicated. Rashi says, Nishtakru. Come, Rabbi, shachtel Reb Zera. Rabbi stood up and he slaughtered Reb Zera. Lemachar, the next day, Boy Rachami. Rabbi prayed. He asked God for compassion. Va'achya. And he brought Reb Zera back to life. He resurrected him. Lishana, the next year, Amalei, Rabbi tells Reb Zera, Nesemar v'navet sudas Purim b'hadei adadi. Let the master come and let's once again do the meal of Purim together. Amalei, Reb Zera said, no. Loi b'chol shaita v'shaita misrachish nisa. Miracles don't happen constantly. Last year we experienced a miracle. I'm here, but this year we're not doing the Suda of Purim again. Last year it was Chis HaMesim. We're not doing the Suda together. Amar Rava said, Sudas Purim sha'achala balayla. A Sudas Purim that you eat at night, the night of Purim, the night before Purim, the first night of the Megillah. Lo yotzi yedei chevos, you didn't fulfill your obligation. My time. Yemei mishta v'simcha ksiv. When the Pasuk speaks about the institution of Purim, it says, Lasas oisam, Yemei mishta v'simcha. Kapitel tes Pasuk chav beis in Megillah Esther. They made them days of feasting, days of joy. Why Yemei? Because the mishta and simcha has to be by day, not by night. Rabbi Ashi Avayasi Kamed Reb Kahana. Rabbi Ashi was sitting in front of Reb Kahana. It was Purim. Naga. The day was becoming later. It was getting darker. It was afternoon. And none of the rabbis, none of the students came to the Beis HaMedrash to learn. Rashi says, Naga v'lasur rabbanan icher hayoim v'loy bo atalmidim l'Beis HaMedrash. It's Purim afternoon. The day is getting darker and nobody is coming to yeshiva. Reb Ashi sees nobody is coming, sitting in front of Reb Kahana. Amalei, Reb Ashi tells Reb Kahana, my time of the Asur Rabbanan. Why didn't the rabbis come to learn? Dil metridi besudas Purim. Maybe I know why. They're all busy with the Sudas Purim. It's Purim afternoon. There's a mitzvah to have a Suda, and that's what they're consumed with the Suda of Purim. Amalei, Reb Kahana says, I don't understand. They couldn't eat last night? What's this excuse? Sudas Purim. It's Purim afternoon. Come learn. The Suda they could have done last night. Amalei Reb Ashi says, the master of Kahana never heard what Rava taught. Sudas Purim shachala balayla yotzi dechevase. You don't fulfill your obligation at night. Amalei Reb Kahana says, Amar Rava achi. Rava said this. Amalei in. I'm adding the three words according to many texts. Amalei in. He says, yeah. Tana minei arbayin zimnin. Reb Kahana learned this 40 times. He wanted to hear this 40 times from Reb Ashi in the name of Rava, that the Sudi not yoitz at night. Until it appeared to him as though it's secure in his pocket, in his memory. Munach bekisse is like when you say, the store that has the sign, in God we trust, everybody else pays cash. Munach bekisse means the money arrived into your wallet. Kiss is your wallet. In other words, it appeared that it's really settled. He really has it after learning it 40 times that Rava said you can't be Yotze Sudas Purim Balayla. You want to understand? 40 times? You got it the first time.
It seems like he didn't agree. So
40 times. What happens when you hear it 40 times? What do you see from here? You see from here what Abaye says, you see? When we hear Sudas Purim at night, you don't eat. Okay, that's all I heard. I'm not hungry. Why am I not hungry? Because a poor man is not hungry. Reb Kahana heard something. He heard something that was astounding to him. He couldn't believe Rava said it. Nobody had a problem believing Rava said it, right? Something was bothering him. And he had to learn it 40 times until it was Munach Bekisse. And one of the Mefarshim say, why does the Gemarah have to say Munach Bekisse? It was in his wallet, it was in his pocket. Because the Gemarah says in Baba Metzia that a person he touches his wallet every few minutes. When you have like $20,000 cash in your wallet, yeah? Every 6 seconds or at least every 7 minutes, like your iPhone. Touch it. It was there. You touch it. But Mitzvah, it says when you lose your wallet, you figure it out pretty fast. Because if you have money there, you touch it. So he says, even after he learned it 40 times, he still kept on touching it. His munach bekisse, he didn't stop. He didn't rely on the 40 times. Okay.
No, it seems like he didn't.
Good to Shaila.
No, it looked like he didn't agree with it. It's like he held his.
Could be. It was a chiddush for
Where
him.
did he learn from it?
You had to learn it 40 times. You may, mishta. Everybody have a wonderful Shabbos. We're going to resume Be'ezer Hashem Monday morning, 7:45. Yeah. Shabbos, I'm here. Everybody have a beautiful and a freiliche and a lustige Shabbos. We have to talk about the drinking, you know. We have to.
You have to come to the rabbi. He says he has a problem. He doesn't get
It's chayiv adam. I don't
Mechayev vinish l'psumah b'poria.
get drunk by it, so I don't
Oh.
know.
Maybe it wouldn't be so bad for you.
Mexico City.
Excellent. Beautiful.
You mentioned about the Yerushalmi Kugel and the oil. I once heard, when you mentioned Dr. Tursky with the alcoholism and the drug rehab and all that stuff, I heard a guy that from England that had a completely different viewpoint on how he removed himself from the problem. Very unlike how
Yeah.
Dave.
Yeah.
What he did is he looked at it like this. You'd see a cluster of grapes, and it sat there for a month, and it rotted and it oozed out. So he's looking at it as rotten produce. So it's very interesting. You look at a good bottle of scotch, and you read the description, but what he referred to it as attractively packaged poison. And that's how he did it, because when you look at an AA guy, they're going to call themselves an alcoholic. They're going to
Wow.
lower themselves. Even 20 years later, they're still calling
Yeah.
themselves alcoholic
Yeah.
by getting the mindset where this is
Beautiful.
rotten produce.
They see it differently. Shekaychach. Okay. We're going to miss you. Your absence will be noted on different levels.
It's only coming out in last year for 5-6 years.
Come Rabbi Shachtel Reb Zayda.
Doesn't mean he really killed him.
5 hours. I think it was. And it wasn't for them.
Well, put him.
Put him.
Wird mamshich sein.
A whole year.
Come Rabbi Shachtel Reb Zayda. We'll talk about it in Mitzvah Shem the next year. I just wanted to finish till the mission.
I heard a Shiloh. From somebody.
It's one of the most strange Gemarahs in the whole Gemarah. A guy gets drunk and he gets up and he kills somebody. I mean, we know drunkards. And you're talking about Rabbi. Yeah, we thought the previous story was strange. Abaye eating 60 dishes, yeah? Doesn't come close to this one.
Even Chaim Mason is on.
And Chaim Mason. And the worst is the next year he wants to do it again.
Right.
Stay away. Ask him Megillah. He never does tshuva. Megillah, ask something. You kill a guy. I mean,
According to some surfer, maybe it doesn't really mean killing.
Well, he killed him, he throws under the table.
no.
I don't remember the clinic.
Strange Gemarah, yeah.
Was that what's the halacha? And then he got so he had to get married.
Oh, it's a good shaila. Does he have to do kiddushin? Does Reb Zayda have to be Mekadosh's wife? Because when her husband dies, the marriage is terminated. Right? She doesn't need a get. She's an almana. So now he came back. Does he have to be kiddushin?
Second one.
Huh?
Did he have to learn again? Did he forget everything?
It says that Reb Zayda fasted 100 fasts. But before he made Aliyah, he wanted to forget Talmud Bavli because he felt that by knowing Talmud Bavli, he can't understand Talmud Yerushalmi.
The second one was
So
that he
it's
was
a
a
great
Chaim.
Eitzah.
He was a Kohen, yeah.
There's an issue also with
Tumah.
that.
Oh, you
Tumah,
can't even.
right, because he died. So now that he,
But it says a mace himself is not Tameh. The mace is Metame, he's not Tameh. Gemarah Nida. Huh? The Shaila about Kiddushin I saw.
yeah,
Who asks it? The Benish. Some of them asks it. They bring a raya from Matan Torah.
yeah.
Huh?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah?
So maybe
It says after Matan Torah, Hashem told the Jews, Shuvu lachem lo aleichem. Go back to your tents. Which means go back to your wives.
They also went
But also Parcha Nishmasam, by Matan Torah, the Neshamas left, so they should have had a new Kiddushin. But they didn't. Just go back to your tents and be with your wife. That's what you mean. That's one of the rayas that he didn't.
Hungarians understand
Next time I write it down.
But Abaye wasn't a Hungarian. Abaye was a Babylonian. The Russians didn't have food. The Russians starved. Farmers in Russia had no food. Jews in Russia starved terribly.
What we also didn't have in Russia? Jealousy.
Jealousy.
Nobody was jealous. Everybody had the same 120 rubles.
Nobody had anything.
His organization.
It's the same.
That was the goal of socialism, to get rid of jealousy. Kibbutz, nobody owns. Nobody owns. Bernie Sanders, yeah. Bernie Sanders loved. He went on his honeymoon. He went to Soviet Russia for his honeymoon. He was in love with Russia. The mile about him is he's honest. He's an open communist. He's not lying. Winston Churchill once said, capitalism is the unequal distribution of success. Socialism is the equal distribution of misery. That really catch it. There's no jealousy, but with what? With a gulag. Huh? Right? There was no jealousy. There was nothing there because when everybody is starving, in Auschwitz, who are you going to be jealous of? The guy who just died near you?
But there is something liberating.
I know. We know that. It's an unbelievable insight. It's an unbelievable insight.
And also the level of camaraderie and friendship is completely different level.
Yeah.
Because you can't take away anything. No, because it's much more real than everything around you. Everything is fake. It's not a fake world. It's there.
It's very true. Listen, when I spoke to the women's class, I did this. Is Torah socialistic or capitalistic? Capitalism has a lot of negativity in it. It's essentially, it could be a very narcissistic system. It destroys relationships. It destroys priorities and values. On the other hand, socialism creates hell on earth. It did that everywhere they tried. From Mao Zedong to Pol Pot, Cambodia, never mind Soviet Russia. Vietnam, Venezuela. It's something. It goes against the grain of the human soul. Adam writes about Kavshala. You need creativity. You need this. So really, in Torah, you'll see both elements very powerfully. That's why there were Jews who were socialistic, even Torah Jews. Torah has a very socialist element to it. Truma, Meiser, Staka, Leka, Shikha, Peya. Yeah.
It's very hard to find the balance.
The balance, it's not Pasha. It's a very serious balance. It's a very hard balance.
Very hard balance, but there is.
There is, yeah. There is goodness in every system. There is goodness in socialism. There's no question. There's a truth there. There's a truth in capitalism. The problem is the two truths are opposites, but there's a truth in each. The truth of individuality is a truth you can't destroy. People need, there's a certain sense of self you must have in the world. You can't have ayin without yesh. You go crazy. On the other hand, if you have yesh without ayin, so is it worth living? It's even in a marriage. Are you one or you're not one? You have to be one, and you have to not be one. If you're one, mamish, it's not going to last. You need to be separate. But if you're separate, you can't have a marriage.
It's the same healthy balance.
It's a very delicate. You have to come to a deeper place where the two could come together. With individualism and identity and boundaries and ownership doesn't become a stira to oneness and camaraderie. On the contrary, it becomes a tool. That's, I think, really the nekud of shalachmanis and matanas lavyaina. Yeah, there's an element of I'm sending you, so obviously I own it. And yet it's all about, the togetherness. In the place of Adalayad, I guess they could come together. It says in Kabbalah that Rava was a Gilgul of light.
Really?
Yeah. That's why Masechta Megillah, he has a tremendous amount of Maimarim on Purim, including Adalayada, how you have to drink on Purim. The Arizal says he was a Gilgul of light. Light was the first Adalayada. His daughters. Light, yeah, we spoke. Yeah. The daughters made Adalayada.
They understood the concept of that.
They understood it very well. But that's what he says. The Arizal says when Abaye pursued the kings of his dome, the king of his dome, to get the captives, he was looking for light. He said he liberated the nitzuts of Rava.
So Abaye was a Gilgul of Avram. Who pursued
That I don't know. I have to look.
When Abaye pursued the
Avram.
yeah, when Avram. the Freudian slip.
Oh, I don't know. That I don't know. Oh.
That's why
It does say Abaye was named that way because Rabbi raised him. Abaye was an orphan, and Abaye's father was Nachmeni, and Rabbi's father was Nachmeni. So he didn't want to call him by his father's name, so he called him Abaye, which is my father, Avi, because he had the same name of his father. His name was Nachmeni, and Rabbi's father was Nachmeni, because Abaye was named after his grandfather, Rabbi Bar Nachmeni. And he raised him, he was his uncle, because Abaye was an orphan, he didn't have parents. So Rabbi took him into the house, and he raised him as his nephew and his student. And Rabbi named him Abaye, which is like Avi, my father. That's one interpretation. Other interpretation is Abaye is Rosh Hashanah, Asher B'cha Yerucham Yassim. There's a pasuk in Hosea, in you, Hashem, a Yassim will find love. An orphan will find love. Since Abaye was an orphan, he gave him the pasuk, Asher B'cha Yerucham Yassim, Abaye. In you, he wanted to give him comfort. So he named him Abaye, that in you, a Yassim will find love. Yeah, he was his uncle. So the first interpretation is that Abaye wasn't a real name. It was just a nickname, my father, like Avi. It was like a cute name for instead of Avi, he's not going to call him my father. He was his adopted kid. So he called him Abaye, like a very nice name. But the second interpretation, which is also from the Arizal, is that they named him Abaye because he was a Yassim. He lost both of his parents. So that's Abaye. Rava also learned by Rabbi. Rava learned by Rabbi also, because Rava was a colleague of Abaye, but Abaye was raised by Rabbi. You see, he sent him for Shalach Monos. There's an interesting diuk in the Arizal. Could you give me that chumash? It says in Parshas in Lech Lecha, he shows that the order was out of place. It says that they captured all the people of Zdaim, right? And the Polit came and he told Avram Avinu that Lot was captured with his family, so Avram went to war. So the Arizal is Medayik, an interesting diuk. It says in Lech Lecha, Perik Yidal, Pasuk Yud Beis, they captured, Vayikchu es Lot, they took Lot, they captured him, Ves Rechushai, and his money, his assets, Ben Achi Avraham, the son of the brother of Avram. Lot was his nephew. Vayelechu, and they left. V'hu Yoshe b'Zdaim. So it says, Vayikchu es Lot, and his money, his rechush, Ben Achi Avram. It should have said, Vayikchu es Lot, Ben Achi Avram ves rechusha. They took Lot, his nephew, and his money. They took Lot and his money, the son of the brother of Avram. So the Arizal says, fascinating, he says, what was the biggest rechush of Lot? The nitzutz of Rava. The nitzutz of Rava. It says, Ves rechusha Ben Achi Avram is Rosh Hashanah Rava. Rechusha is Reish, Ben is Beis, Achi Avram. So the biggest rechush was that it was Rava's neshama. Yeah. That's what the Arizal says. So Rava is the one who says Chayev inish l'psuma b'Purim, and Rava is the one who says that you can't have the Suda of Purim at night. It's all Rava. There was a connection between Rava and Purim. No, he said you're not Yoitza. In other words, Rava was the one who was speaking a lot about the Suda of Purim, that you have to be Adelayada and you can't have it at night, etc. And we see it was a Chiddush because Reb Kahana had to learn it 40 times. It wasn't simple.
He had Lloyd has a Adelayada by night.
Lloyd drank at night, yeah, Adelayada. That was the problem. You don't have to finish the Suda by day, but you have to start by day. A lot of people finish at night. But you have to start the Suda at night. The Suda is by day, not by night. Right. That the night after Purim you're not Yoitze, that the Gemarah doesn't have to say. Purim is over. Right. The Chiddush of the Gemarah is that the night of Purim you're not Yoitze.
But that's for other people.
Over there they have to do it by day. They're not Yoitze, you dalit at night. Ein Chanami, both. We're not Yoitze one night, they're not Yoitze another night. But the night after Purim, you don't need Rava for that. Purim is over, it's over. There's no mitzvah Suda anymore. Just like you can't do Shalach Manas then. It's a separate time. I mean, you can give Shalach Manas, but it's not the mitzvah of Purim. But the night before Purim, you would think, why not? You read the Megillah then. It's Purim. You say Ala Nisim. It's Purim. It's Yom Tov. The Chiddush is that it says Yemei Mishta v'Simcha, and therefore it's connected to the Yom. It doesn't just say they made it Mishta v'Simcha. Yemei. The diuk is it has to be during the day hours.
Again, the next time you write
yeah, Shechianu again is a machlokes, a Sfardim and Ashkenazim, but some hold that the main Megillah is by day also. Yeah, because Yemei Mishta also. According to that shit, that makes a lot of sense because they compare all the mitzvahs.
This class is brought to you by the yeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.